In this video I would like to comment a quote by Coleridge, which is found in the Exegesis by Philip K. Dick, page 496. Coleridge on tragedy. The greatest effect is produced when the fate is represented as a higher intelligent will. The human will was exhibited as struggling with fate. Then this is Philip K. Dick speaking. So the essence of tragedy is the limited human knowledge, plans, hopes, desires, will, clashing with, quoting Coleridge, a higher and intelligent will, which we understand or encounter as fate. And I suffer from identity issues, I guess, but I know myself as an empirical individual, the individual that you see here. I know my cognitive limitations. My IQ is broadly 131 in France, which is broadly the same as in the Anglo-Saxon countries. It can be slightly more, slightly less. I have, I think, 137 in verbal IQ, which means I have a very high verbal IQ, and apparently only 105 in abstract logic. So my abstract logical reasoning and thinking is above average, but not that much. So I suffer from a relatively modest logical intelligence. My education, I have no education above high school diploma, except a few months in 2021, but that's all there is. I never had any philosophy class. I never had any course or lecture on philosophy with a proper teacher. I watched philosophy lessons on the internet, and I studied philosophy in books, and I had the opportunity to talk briefly to a philosophy teacher in a period of my life, but I never had any philosophical lecture or class. So I have no formal training in philosophy. And given these limitations, I don't know why they are the way they are, but these are the cognitive limitations that my empirical self has. I know that the videos that I have recently produced, namely the 3 videos on the systematic commentary of the Phenomenology of Spirit, the preface, the 5 videos on the Wissenschaft der Logik, plus the one produced even before, the Colerige Wissenschaft, and the video about the concept, which is titled In God's Image. These videos, there are 9 videos, 10 if we account for the first video on the Wissenschaft der Logik. They last, these 9 videos, 5 hours and 16 minutes. And as of now, as I'm making this video, they have a total of 71 views, which is kind of miserable. So why do I think about tragedy and cognitive limitation? Because I believe that I understand more and more about the entity that people call God, but I cannot communicate my thoughts. I try to. I make videos. I've been making videos for almost 2 months now, daily, but I do not succeed in convincing anyone or finding an audience. So I already encountered this situation in 2018 I had spiritual ideas to share with others, and I tried through the written word on YouTube, but I failed. So here I am again 4 years later. And I believe, maybe I'm wrong, but if people, everyone understood God, all conflicts would cease. We would have peace and calm and stillness and rest. But the problem is that it's not that easy, and that's why there is tragedy, because as of now, not everyone understands God in its universality as I understand or believe I do. So yeah, and I know that in a moment which from my position now will be the distant future, people will watch my videos, or maybe this video in the distant future, which will be now for them when they do, and they will say, but you knew not everything, but yeah, you knew everything. Why didn't you tell us? And honestly, I don't know what I will answer. Maybe I will say, I tried. Here's the proof that I am trying. But if I failed, it's probably because I did not try hard enough. Maybe I lacked the will or the intelligence. Or maybe things are partly tragic, and I don't know. I have no answers as of now. And I wonder if God, the entity that we call God or that we envision as being God, can speak directly, as if there's a passage in Die Bestimmung des Menschen by Fichte where spirit talks directly to the self. But I don't know if God can speak independently of human speech. I don't know if the entity that we call God can speak without being embodied in a human being speaking. I don't know if it's possible to speak in a non-human, non-physical realm. As of now, I have no idea. So, yeah. And now about the Exegesis by Philip K. Dick. The Exegesis by Philip K. Dick, as of now, is probably the most fascinating, the most awesome, the most awe-inspiring book I have encountered. And here are the definitions of the words that I've used. Fascinating, possessing the power to charm or allure, captivating, capable of holding the attention, capturing interest as if by a spell, awesome, inspiring awe, expressing awe, remarkable, outstanding. And the definition of awe that I found, a feeling of respect or reverence mixed with dread and wonder, often inspired by something majestic or powerful. Another definition of awe, fear mingled with admiration or reverence, reverential fear feeling inspired by something sublime, not necessarily partaking of the nature or fear or dread. So this is, with the limited capabilities of vocabulary, this is what the exegesis of Philip K. Dick inspires me. It's a feeling of awe, fear, respect, admiration. I would say also it's strange and amazing and fascinating. This is the most awe-inspiring book that I have encountered in my life as of now. And of course there are the books by Hegel, but Hegel, the way I envision him, is not human. Hegel is not human. He's more than human. In the sense that Hegel seems to know everything for some strange reason. Hegel seems to know everything. How is that possible? I have yet no answer. But the difference between Hegel and Philip K. Dick is that Philip K. Dick, from a historical, empirical perspective, was human. Hegel was not human. Philip K. Dick was very intelligent, of course, but he had no formal philosophical education, as far as I know, and he was full of doubts and questions and inquiries, and he made very complex philosophical ideas intelligible in the language that I myself, as a limited empirical being, can understand, whereas the language of Hegel, I cannot always understand what Hegel means. So the books by Hegel might be more fascinating and awesome and awe-inspiring in the sense that I spend more time reading Hegel than reading Philip K. Dick, but there is in Philip K. Dick an aspect which is more fascinating in a sense that it's more, there is more mystery. In Hegel, it's too, I would say, too perfect. I don't know, it's, yeah, but yeah. And I ask myself this question: how is it possible to create, for lack of a better word, a world in which the history of the empirical man Hegel, what we identify as the German philosopher Hegel, and broadly 150 years later, the history of the empirical man that we identify as Philip K. Dick, seem coherent? There seems to be a rationality going from 19th century Germany with the history of Hegel, and the 1970s and 80s America with the history of Philip K. Dick, and there can be coherent speeches made about these two empirical men, and there have been many books written about Hegel and Philip K. Dick. So the historical perspective seems coherent, and that is already absolutely amazing. But what is even more mind-blowing is that if we consider the mystical aspects of Hegel and Philip K. Dick, they are, I know, connected to my own spiritual life, to my own spiritual development. And in my own intellectual and spiritual life, I identified wrongly, I guess, with what I called God. In August 2018, I believed that I had become God. It was not the real God. But the view that I have about the entity that we call God is so awesome and amazing and awe-inspiring that I cannot seriously believe that I ever became or would become God. That's beyond understanding and beyond me. And I will be honest, the vision that I have about this entity that we call God is so beyond and above what, to my knowledge, any individual has ever envisioned, that I don't know what to say. And I will conclude by saying that, to go back to the quote by Coleridge, what I identify as my empirical self, I will try my limited best to do what I think is right until the higher intelligent will crushes me eventually. So that's what I will do. Yeah, I will conclude by saying that the entity that we call God is, as of now, fascinating, awesome. Yeah, that's what I had to say. That's what I had to say.